exactly gets copied if I do that?
Okay. That is a great question here, Rick. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the share screen here real quick. And then we'll go over on the back end here exactly what that is. So one item before we go into the back end here to show that, if you guys are not familiar with that, if you guys go to the Brilliant Directories website, and what Rick's talking about is in the add-ons here on the brilliantdirectories.com, add-ons and website services. They have a feature called Clone Your Website, and appropriately have two identical sheep here on the details there. But if you guys click on that, you'll see it's $45 to do that. It's not like a button, I guess, the way maybe Rick made it sound like at first there, but it's a feature. It's not like a button that you guys just click to clone it. You have to have BD do that. But this is where you would go there. You click the $45 clone thing here. They'd get in contact with you after you paid the $45 and just say, hey, what site ID do you want to clone to what site ID? And so what you basically want to tell them when you do that is say, I have website ID. You can give them the domain name as well, but 17406, and I want to clone it to 17407 or whatever the other one that you do. Just be aware that if you clone it, it should be one that you own, obviously, for the other site. They can clone it to others that you do not own. They just have to get, obviously, the permission of the site owner to do that, and they can do that as well. But the question that Rick was asking, so that's how you do it, right? For everybody that does not know how to do that. But in terms of his question on what gets cloned when you do that, it basically clones everything in the database other than a couple of items, and I'll go over that real quick for you. So it does not copy over any of the financial information. So any of the payment settings, any of the historical transaction history, any of the credit card data, any financial database table is not moved over. That will just basically be empty. So everything will be there for the members and the plan and what plan they're in. But in terms of like the actual setup for them actually charged or whatever, that will not copy over. So nothing on the payment settings. And then, like I said, everything in the categories will be moved over. Everything in the members will be moved over other than the payment stuff. Basically, everything gets moved. Post types, that all gets moved over. Posts, that all gets moved over. Basically, everything in there will look exactly the same other than that. And then other than the finance stuff. And then the other item that does not get moved over is the settings and design settings. There are some items in there, like the integrations stuff will not work, obviously, because you need a specific domain specific thing for the maps and the recaptcha and all that stuff. But some of these actual, I'm sorry, not design settings, general settings. That's what I meant. The general settings do not get copied over. So there's going to be some stuff in here that you'll need to edit, like your default website email. An email domain will be blank. You'll need to reset up the localization and the integration stuff. So basically this, you'll want to walk through each tab of this. The brand images will be empty. There'll be all the default stuff. The images will be there. Like if you go to the, this will be blank. And if you want to hit replace image and you go into, edit your website logo, it's going to be right in there on your stuff to just go re-add real quick. But that, this brand images will have to be re-added, but the files will be in there, if that makes sense. You just have to kind of reattach them, just because this stuff is site specific and does not get passed over. So bottom line, to answer your question, Rick, is financial data, any of the transactional stuff, and then general settings is generally what does not get passed over. I have moved the financial stuff over in the past, so if it's your site moving it to another site or whatever, they can move that database table as well, but you need to let them know that you want them to move that, and then they can go ahead and do that. But just by default, it is not moved. This has always been blank, however, the general settings in the move. So that's your question there, Rick?
Yes, very, very good. And then I guess you then re-input if the people that you want to pay for the new site separately, you'd have them re-input, or you'd re-input their charging, whatever you're charging them?
Right. Yeah, they would just have to. You could manually add an invoice in there. Then they'd have to go in there and put their billing payment stuff in there. So
okay. Now, on the billing question, if I could ask one more question. So if I have a guy today and I say, look, I'll give, if you sign up for the $300 membership, I give you $100 off. What's the best way for me to handle that?
Just for one guy?
Yeah, probably just for one guy. So I wouldn't have a new category.
Do you have the VIP add-ons or no?
No, I do not.
Okay. So let me just throw that out there. The easiest way is if you guys have the VIP add-ons, I would just add a coupon code, right, for that one guy, and then he could just add that coupon code and reduce that down, by $200 or whatever if you guys had that. So if you do not have that, really the only way to do that outside of the coupon codes is you just want to make a separate membership level just for him. It would be like premium for Jack, that would be his membership level, and you just edit the pricing on the finance for that membership plan. You would just do that and edit his pricing and just give him the link, this sign up page or whatever. So this supporter membership, let's say this was premium membership for Jack, you would just give him that checkout 8 or whatever, even if it's not linked on your website, that has that reduced price.
Okay, perfect. And then I can change that next year back to the normal price if I want to?
Okay, so that's a good question. So you can, but just realize if you guys have people in certain, categories and a certain pricing stuff, they get grandfathered into that pricing level. So let's say this one supporter membership, it's $9.99 a month, right? If there's somebody in there and you change the price to $19.99 a month, that is not going to affect whoever is in, let's say this one, 21 people, change the price from $9.99 to $19.99. Those 21 people are still going to be paying the $9.99 amount. Okay, good. So what you have to do is actually go into their profile and the transaction history, and you have to actually change the subscription amount for that. For that particular person. So go in there, change their subscription. And it just, when you go to the, let me just show you guys how to do that. So if you go into a particular, let's do a claim listing here, it doesn't really matter. But if you go into the quick edit for a particular member and go into the actions, and then you view the payment history here, it's going to open up the little transactional, and there's not going to be anything in here, but I can still open it up there. When you open it up, it's going to give all their transactional information, right, for this particular person, company, whatever. You're going to want to go into the subscriptions tab here, and this one doesn't have anything in there, so there won't be anything to edit. But you'll have a subscription in here of whatever they're paying, the $9.99 a month, and you'll want to go in and edit that subscription. And then there'll be a manual override basically in there where it's say, hey, they're currently on a $9.99. You would just change it to $19.99 and hit save. And that would, the next time that auto bills or whatever, it's going to auto bill at that higher rate. But until you manually come change that in the subscription, it's going to stay on the old one. So you can either edit that new one, or if you already edited the other subscription, or you can just cancel that subscription and then manually add a new subscription, and you just manually add them, like a manual bill, and it doesn't charge them right away. It'll just add that to the subscription, whatever that renewal date is that's set up in there, and then it'll invoice them at the next interval.
Beautiful. Love it. That's really good information.
All right. Let's see. Let me close this out here. All right. Let's see. Nothing in the chat here. Anybody else? Toby, welcome again. Sean, that looks like I don't remember that name, so welcome if you're new there. Mark. And I'm going to Kudakawashi, I probably butchered that. I apologize, but welcome as well. And Kelly, feel free to jump on audio or visual if you guys want, and say hi, Toby. How are you doing today, Toby? All right. Any other questions at all? It's been kind of. Hey, Toby.
Oh well. Cheers.
So I normally go over some of the new stuff as well that BD went over, but they were actually pretty silent on the last webinar there on new stuff. So really don't have that much to talk about from the last webinar for them. So it's probably 3 or 4 weeks ago since they had something new. Hey, Johnny, welcome. So feel free to put it in the chat as well if you guys have any questions. Hey, Sean, welcome. Thanks for giving a shout out. Again, you guys can unmute yourself and jump on the audio visual if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can add it in the chat. Anything else from you, Rick or Toby, since you guys are the only ones on? Any other questions? Did I cover you, Rick?
I'm sure I have some more questions, but I was trying not to monopolize things.
Oh, no worries. Sometimes, sometimes people monopolize. That's good. I mean, if nobody else has any questions you want to monopolize, feel free to do so.
Okay, I'll think of some more stuff then. I appreciate it, Ryan. You always have great advice and saved me a lot of time.
All right, so I'm not sure. I'm assuming Sean can hear us. Otherwise, he would turn off, but I'll just say hi in the chat as well. So feel free to jump in there in the chat if you guys want. We'll go ahead and press into the presentation for today then. And again, feel free to jump in on the conversation or throw anything on the chat if you guys want. And then if anybody watching, if you guys don't mind, that's up on audio. If I get in the presentation, I don't see anything on the chat, somebody has a question, feel free to jump in and say stop, and I'll try to answer the question there if I miss it, since I'll be kind of focusing on the presentation there. All right. So I always double check. You guys can see the slide good? Rick, you good?
See what?
Oh, Rich. Well, Rick was on here as well, Rich. So
okay, yeah.
Rich, I wasn't calling you Rick, so it's
I'll let it slide this time. Yeah.
Okay. Can you see you get on the visuals?
Yeah. Let me see. I had a.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, quick question, but now I'm trying to recall what that was. It was something to do with the directory, as I recall.
Just in general.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's a directory? Because I've been at this for a while. I'm still trying to. Am I missing something here? Yeah.
That was directory webinar number 1.
Oh, okay, so, good. I'll go back.
Thanks for the segue there, though, Rich.
I do.
We went over this on the last couple webinars, but I'm going to keep throwing this out here for a few weeks just so everybody's aware of it. But have the new refurbished DirectoryVideos.com, so you guys can go back and watch all the Directory Toolkit webinars, including all 78 hours and 45 minutes of us jabber-jawing back and forth about brand directories and other business and marketing stuff. And then also have all of 121 hours of BD's Webinar Wednesdays. So if you guys have nothing to do for the next 5 weeks, feel free to watch all those. But those are all in here for you guys to watch. And also has search where you can search inside of the videos. So if you want to go back to webinar number 1, where we went over what a directory is for Rich there, you can go back and review that. But so again, directoryvideos.com, if you guys feel free to take a gander around there and see if you can find some resources that you guys can use.
Do you have the domain name yet? Directory for Dummies? Or
no, but I'm going to register it live here if it's available.
Or directorybinging.com. Yeah. But on a real quick, I think this is a real easy one. Quick, serious note is sure. If you just go to my website on the directory, but basically when I click on a tab, it has like the old label for the tab, and I can't figure out how to change. Not the tab, just go to podcast to directory. If you click on story and mission, it still shows like kind of the when you hover over it or whatever. Let me see what it shows like the podcast world tour. As I'm not sure what the terminology is for that, but like over the tab.
This?
Let me see what you're looking at.
You mean the menu?
Well, the menu's correct, but it's basically when you hover over, up top, like on the tab itself, on the very
No, it
top.
says Podcast World Tour.
Yes, yeah. So I fixed that before somehow or updated that, but how do you update that? I couldn't recall.
That's a great question. I think it is just in your general settings. I think it's just whatever your website is called. I think. I mean,
No,
I think
because it
it's the
changes.
website name.
No, every page has its own, listing, or when you hover over it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. So,
Yeah.
so what you're going to want to do is go to. Well, it's a great question. You don't have. Normally, it's your H1 is what that's going to be.
Yeah, because if I go to another page under
Here,
let's say
let me
events.
just stop the share here real quick. I'll just log in to yours real quick,
Okay.
and then we can do it live here for everybody. I think it's just your H1 title in that page, but normally if you put an H1 in there, it shows up on the hero banner, which I don't see as well. So that's why I'm trying to kind of pausing on that being the case. But yeah, it's so that. And as we're going to do this, I'll show everybody the metadata process as well on where to find that for your guys' sites, and that can be a maybe some nomenclature in there as well to help out find the issue. So let me go to your web page builder, and then I'll start it up again.
Because I've done it for some of the other pages, and it updates, but I couldn't remember. How I did it 6 months ago, or whatever it was. When I did a different.
All right, so that's in the. If you guys notice on the page here, it's just called good, right? So that's the page title or whatever. So if you guys go into the web page builder, you can use this keyword search here. It's really good. It'll filter out, and then here's the page in question, the story and mission. It's called page good. So let's go ahead and edit that, and we'll see where that thing lies in there.
Yeah, so it should. We're changing it from Podcast World Tour to, because I did a clone of the page. I guess it was originally called Podcast World Tour, but I want to make it called Story and Mission.
All right, so you don't have anything in the main title here, which is interesting. Let me just go to the hero section here, and I don't have any additional content in there.
I think it was under the advanced. I've updated, yeah, and so I put it in one of those in the past. There's head tags.
Yeah, that's. I know that's. I'm trying to look at your footer here. It looks like you got you selling T-shirts, I guess.
Yeah.
That's.
You want to buy one? That was actually my real purpose here. Yeah.
Podcast World Tour. So I'm thinking it may be something with the script you're putting in here.
No, because that's at the bottom. That's at the end. It's not related to the page
it
title.
doesn't matter. Oh, let's look at the screen here real quick.
Because basically I kind of did a clone of this because I wanted to keep that embedded code with the
So what's happening is I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
See how it said there you don't have any H1 tags, and so it's kind of a unique situation, but you don't have any H1 tags in here, right? And so what I think it's doing is you're embedding another page in here that has one in there, and I think it's just grabbing this Podcast World Tour right here for the other page here, and then just grabbing it on there. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and look at your page source here. Just want to see because what's happening is that's throwing a title in there probably on that embed code, and it's overwriting anything else that's in here. So see how you have, you just have channel for good as the title.
I think I just did another page for Podcasting for Good.
Oh, it's podcast. Yeah, I'm gonna look at this one offline. Let me see if what do you want? What would you want this to say? I just want to see if this changes it.
I guess we would make it story and mission because that is the tab title. But
I mean, that's going to put it in your actual header, though.
So then it might be channel for good is the page itself.
Okay, and that did now overwrite. See, now it says channel for good now. So now that I added that in there, it's retaken over channel for good. Let me take that back off. I just want to verify that I'm going to take that back off again. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little element in there. It's called a non-breaking space. And it's basically an HTML element that doesn't show, right? It's just a space, but it adds something to the H1, like there's something there. And so hopefully that'll get that to override that plugin widget, but not actually put anything on in here so it looks weird with the overriding. You can just have the image like you had before. So
yeah, now it has it over top of the word purpose.
So I know, I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
So I just refreshed it there. Okay, that's interesting. It just swapped as that page loaded. Did you see that?
Let's reconnect that road.
So I think it's overriding it when you put that little script in there. See how it's channel for good, and then as soon as that bottom part of the page loads, it just swapped over to Podcast World Tour. So we can probably take a look at it later, but
use the H1. Use the H1 for channel for good because I heard that helps with SEO, but how would that impact the because right now it doesn't have an H1 or H2, but if you put H1 as the channel for good, will that override it?
I don't think so because it's overriding it as the page loads. So I could put channel for good there and it would show up real quick.
But then it changes the layout of the page because we're kind of just curious what it would look like.
So I would just maybe tweak that on the shopping cart. Is maybe what I would do for that one shopping cart instance, and then that would hopefully override that. Is what I would do.
Yeah, and actually that's not a bad idea because ultimately we're gonna have to do that anyway because we've kind of pivoted from the World Tour to channel. So all of this merch will be reconfigured for Channel for Good with it once we get a logo but we're a few months out from making all that happen. But so I mean it's not a
What are you using for the merchandise?
This one I forget. I think it's Spreadshirt, I think is the name of it. Spreadshirt.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's a real challenge to get a merch store that will embed on your site, and I think click on one of those because I think it allows the whole shopping cart process to happen on the site, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So they're still on my site, right? And they can actually, and that's a night and day difference. Virtually none of them will allow you to do that because they want you to go off to their site.
Yeah, there's a couple that do that. This one, and maybe you can tweak it. This still has the thing up here and this other stuff about us, so it still kind of looks like a page in a page.
Yeah.
So I'd look to see if you could turn that off. You said Spreadshirt, is that? The other one, if you guys are looking to execute a shopping cart one, I think we maybe talked about this before, as everybody seems to want merch recently, but Equid is one that a lot of the other developers have used, and I've used this recently, and this actually works perfectly inside of BD. So if you guys are looking for, and the other interesting one, this one ties into.
Wait a minute, EC. I'm trying to type here. Equid.
EC, yeah, ECWID. Let me throw that in the chat here.
ECWID. Yeah, because I'm open because we're gonna have to retool all of our merch.
Okay, so that's in there. I'll show you guys a quick demo here as we just did this one but they tie into Printful as well, Equid, so you can add stuff in there and Printful for print on demand stuff, so you don't have to. And I'm sure that one is Spreadshirt as well, but it does the print on demand where you don't have to touch the stuff. That you just get the money and they print it.
Yeah, because they drop ship directly to the
exactly.
Okay,
so let me throw this in.
I've heard of this one, but especially if it embeds a cleaner version into BD, that's the.
Yeah, so let me just I'll just show you. So here, if you go to, if you guys want to view this one, I'll throw this in the chat as well.
What is this together? Well, is that a?
Yeah, it's just
Another shop?
a nonprofit, but. So here's their merch store, right? It's right inside there. And so all it says on here is the My Account, track orders, and your shopping bag. So I've already added something to the shopping bag. So, but it's got really, really good graphics as well with the logo. I mean, it even wraps your logo on the water bottles, and really good looking. And
that's through the ECWID?
Yeah, this is Printful, Printful stuff. That's back-ended into Equid. So it's Printful merchandise, but utilizing the Equid store.
Yeah, because we looked at Printful, but there was a disconnect in using them for some reason. I can't recall why. But now with this integration, that would make it worthwhile.
Yeah, because they don't have. You have to go through a shopping cart to use their services. They got to plug into Equid or Shopify or something like that. But
right, exactly. Yeah.
So if you click on an item, it's like right inside of your site there. You just add that to the bag, adds that in there. Now I've got, I deleted the other item. But anyway, so here's the shopping cart right inside of your BD site. I just put in there and I check out.
Is this a BD site as well, you're saying, this nonprofit?
Yeah, it's BD.
Oh, mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's
why
cool.
I'm demoing this, because I just did this just so you guys can see. What it looks like, but it's pretty slick. It works pretty good, and it looks great. And there's no appendages. That's what I was trying to say on yours a little bit. It doesn't have any added stuff or whatever. It's just kind of
because I added on our menu bar. We were just integrating that page, but I added on our menu bar a separate tab just for the not a tab but a drop down just for merch. But I like the way this lays out with BD, and then it's a lot cleaner now. What's the Printful integration then? Basically, that's to do the layout of the design, the look of it, right? Where it replicates it all, or does
that's the shopping cart. That's the shopping cart part.
Okay, the e-commerce piece of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can put your own stuff in there as well. If you wanted, you don't have to use Printful.
Okay.
It's kind of up to you, but we just did this one. It looks pretty good. I just wanted to show you guys that because I know that.
No, it looks great.
That merchandise comes up a lot. And then at some point in the future, as I seem to do this every week because we always talk about everything. Some point in the future, we will have directory merch will be showing its face.
Nice.
So you guys will be able to avail yourselves of that. But that's a ways in the future. I like to throw seed some stuff out here in the videos once in a while. But if you guys are looking to do that, I can help anybody out with that if you want. So obviously there's added costs for that for any of those merchandise stores. Obviously you got to pay the Printful. I think takes Equid is a monthly fee, but it's not that much. And then Printful just takes I think a portion of the actual price. Right? Then when they print it, they just get some money, and then you get the rest, kind of thing. So
right.
that one just is set up nicely that you know they don't make money unless you make money. So. All right, so let me just check the chat here, make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, so let me go to the presentation for today. Still good on the slides. Again, welcome. Make sure I'm recording here, as I've messed that up before. All right. So what we went over last week, we started again in the Directory Startup series. We started going over some of the business plan basics, and we started going over the purpose for your business. We're going to continue on that for today, for today's presentation. And the thing we're going to talk about today is the value proposition. So kind of stepping down one layer deeper in that purpose that we talked about last week, and kind of going over the business plan stuff. We talked about the preview, and we just touched on the purpose last week. So we're going to spend a few weeks on the purpose here for the business plan, and what you need to do to make that reality for your business. And again, even if you're not going to be doing a business plan, or you haven't done one in the past, or you don't think you're going to do that, there's still something in here for you to take something out of that for your business, or maybe enhance it or tweak it or apply it to your directory as you get going. So plenty of stuff in here for everybody, even if you're not doing a business plan. And hopefully you guys got some stuff out of last week. Again, if you have any other examples, or we started thinking about it after last week, feel free to jump in with any other insights that you had. But if you did not, or if you want to go back, and watch this again, directory webinar number 41, you can just go watch that at directoryvideos.com, and just type in number 41, and it will come up. And this is what we talked about last week, a little bit in depth, kind of talking about, what's the why of your business? How are you determining what business that you want to do? And we went in depth on here and how to determine, maybe what a good, if you want to, or shifting, focus for your directory, or if you're just looking at a directory and you don't know what idea you want to do yet, just something to think about when you're going down that path. So we kind of evaluated that, the best purpose there for you and your business would be something that you love, that you're good at, that the world needs, and something that people are willing to pay for. And the cross of all four of those is really kind of the sweet spot, hopefully for your business, that everybody can get themselves to. Not everybody gets there. Sometimes it's just something that maybe you don't totally love it, or you're not totally good at it, or whatever. But that's why we do businesses sometimes, or strike out and learn stuff over time as you get better at it, or you learn to maneuver it into something you do love, or you figure out how you can get paid for something you love doing, right? And you're kind of maneuvering around in the pocket there between all four of those. But that's kind of the discussion we went into last week. So if you want to take a look at that in depth, feel free to look at last week's webinar. And this is one of the things that we went over last week as well, is the golden circle. And we're going to kind of branch off from that one today and looking at the why for your customers. But last week we looked at the video for Simon Sinek and on the finding the why for your business. And I apologize, I rewatched that. The audio was crappy, and I thought it worked better when I played the actual YouTube inside of the webinar instead of just playing it off from my browser. But I guess it's actually worse, and it echoed, and I have no idea why. So we'll work on that better for next time. So again, I apologize on that for the audio. But it's a great video if you've never seen it. But this is the crux of the video, basically saying people don't buy your product or use your business based on what you do. A lot of it now, especially the old millennial argument, is that people do stuff because of the why, right? Because of what you stand for, because of what you're trying to do, the message of your products or services or whatever. And so in reference to that, previous slide where you want to get that, what's the middle target there of your meaning or your purpose of your business, you want to figure out what the why is for your business. So you can portray that to your customers, right? Because it's becoming ever more important. It's an easy distinguishing factor when all else things are equal, right? When you have that why that you can portray in your messaging and to your clients. And if you don't have that, it's obviously harder to portray when you don't have it. So today we're going to talk basically on how to transition that why into maybe your business statement, your value proposition for your directory. And so we just want to talk about getting to the why. And so if we look at just three generic examples of, like, if you had your elevator pitch or your little statement of what a business does, here's three generic statements for a computer business. Well, this is an example. It's not necessarily a directory, but just a computer business. So here's the first one is we build scalable hybrid solutions for your business, right? You can count on us for secure, cost-effective custom solutions. And the third one is choose us for reliable, scalable, easy-to-use platforms, right? So those all seem like very, they make sense, right, for a business to try to explain what they do. And so when we're thinking about this, think about the H1 on your site there that we were just kind of talking about earlier, or the page, or what you're trying to portray, and tell people what you do. Like, what is that statement? But these are all the what of what the business does, right? It's not really a why. Like, I don't look at it and go, well, I mean, great, you build, hybrid solutions for business. Why am I using you? It doesn't really tell me why. And so, well, let's start with that one of those nondescript lines from that we looked at on the previous slide, and demonstrate how effective how effective the why messaging can be. So that first statement is, we build scalable hybrid solutions for your business, right? So that's what the business does. But you want to dig a little bit deeper on that. How do you provide that to the customers if you're this computer business with that what? Like, how do you do that? So maybe you add some information about how you do that. We work with our customers to identify their unique hosting requirements, right? And so that's kind of why you exist, right? Why do you provide those solutions? We do that to help our customers identify what they need, right? So that it's a little bit better than the previous one, right? Because now you know kind of why you do what you do a little bit better. But to get to the real why and that decision-making brain for a customer, you need to identify, your company values that we talked about last week, your purpose and your beliefs. And so maybe you stem down to the next one where it says, we believe, that migrating to the cloud should be a seamless experience for our customers, right? So not only says what they do, now that that you provide the solution, but that you provide those unique hosting requirements, but the why is you help them transition to the cloud, right? That's what you're believing, that everybody should be transitioning to the cloud, because that's your thought process there, why you want to help them transition to that. And so and that's a little bit better. And then, but if you put them all together, then you start with the why, and then you work outward from that center of that circle that we talked about last week, the why, the how, and then the what, and you get the full picture of what they're actually doing for the customer. So you put them all together, right? And so these are kind of the three tiers, and now you work out instead of doing the opposite, where you're like, hey, we do directories, or we provide a listing for your business, or whatever. You kind of work at the way, inside out, like we looked at last week on that Simon Sinek circle. So here would be the combo statement. We believe that migrating to the cloud should be a seamless experience for our customers. So we work with our customers to identify their unique hosting requirements and deliver the secure, reliable, cost-effective custom solutions. So that statement right there, now I've got all three. I've got the why. I'm starting with the why. I then do the how, and then what, and then the first one, the simple one, is what they do. But it sounds a lot different. And again, we can go back and watch that video last week if you want. But it sounds a lot different than the other way of just saying what you do, right? What the directory does. You kind of now, just by reading that whole statement, you have a belief of the directory, right, or the company, and what they're actually doing for their customers. And just by reading that, it's a totally different emotional experience reading that one, right, than reading we build scalable hybrid solutions, right? It just sounds a lot different because it's more of that empathetic feeling. So we're gonna go over that today a little bit later at the end, about that value proposition, that the value that you provide to the customer is more than just the features or listing in a directory, right? It's more than that. And so when you're designing your value proposition to your customers and your sales pitch, or just the design of your website, of design of the landing pages, you gotta do more than this. You have to do the full enchilada here of the the emotional side as well, in order to make that sale, and it just is that much more effective. So when you guys are thinking about that in your directory and how you're portraying that, it's not only your that why of your company, but you need to get that why across to your customer, right? You need to get to your customer's why. And so even if we go to that business example of that one sentence in the previous slide, that may be your business why about what you do that. But the real customer why is for you is getting money from them, right? And so you need to answer their why. Like, why are they going to buy your product or service? Like, even if that is an emotional, nice statement, you still have to get them, to know why they're buying your product or service. And then even if they do that, maybe if they know they want the product or service, why are they buying it from you or your company? Or why are they buying a listing on your directory? Vice using one of the other popular services, like if you're a restaurant directory, why are they listing on your service instead of Yelp? Why are they focusing on your directory instead of focusing on Google My Business on Google? And so why they may know that they want the product or service, but why are they buying from you? And then the third one is, why are they buying now? Like what? Like they may be interested, know they need it. Maybe they want to go with you, but maybe why do they need to do it now? And that's the other thing that you need to think about when you guys are making those sales pages in your copy. And we've talked about that stuff before too, about doing urgency and stuff like that, and the psychological stuff. We did a whole webinar on psychology of emails and other sales page kind of stuff for the lead magnet stuff and for the landing pages. So if you'll go ahead and look up, I think you probably do psychology in the directory video search and find that webinar. But we did a whole webinar on that. So you also want to say why buy now. So you need to transition to why they need to use your product, and that value proposition that we're talking about today, that of what you're presenting to the customer, that is how you're going to portray to the customer about why all three of these answers. And so the real simple answer, and I don't know how to make it more simple than this, but this one is very true. The two things that you need to do in order to get people to answer those three questions in their brain, it's this simple, are these two things. You need to be unique and you need to have value, right? Those are the two things. So if you do a matrix of those two things on a chart here, this is what it would look like. The value of your product on the bottom from left to right as it goes up, and then how your product is different from your competitors from bottom to top. You have this thing down the bottom where if your product's not valuable and it's not very unique, nobody's gonna use your product, right? There's no reason to buy. So sometimes people say, "Hey, I'm nobody's signing up for my directory. I am not making any money." You have to. This is why we normally do the business plans and you do the market research, and we'll get into that in a little bit. You want to make sure that your product, whatever you're presenting to people, is both of these things. And when it's not valuable to the customer, you're presenting stuff that they don't care about, or stuff that's not unique to you, or they can easily go to a more reputable area to do that. They're not going to buy from you. And so these are two of the things that you need to think about and work on to make sure that you increase the value of your product. We talked about this many webinars. Frank and I have as well over time. You have to maybe have something more than just your directory, right? If it's just a directory, yeah, there's 25 of those, right? It's so most of the time you have to have something more than a directory. It's got to have something unique to you to add to that value or to make you different from somebody else in order to do that. So if you're not valuable, not unique, you're right here and you're not going to get any sales. This one right here is that you're very unique, right? That you offer something nobody else does, but it's absolutely not valuable. And so I see that a lot of times where people say, "Oh, I have this. Nobody else has that." And they have it in their mind's eye that like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And I hear it and I'm like, well, who's going to pay for that? Who cares? And so if that's your answer, this is basically what you are. You own a market that doesn't exist, right? You have the corner on the market for a service or product that nobody's ever going to pay for. And that's not, so that means you have a lot of customers and nobody willing to pay. And that's obviously not a good spot to be in, right? So not valuable and unique, owning a market that doesn't exist is not a good spot to be in. And then in the bottom other corner is that it's valuable. You offer value on the product, but you're not unique, right? And so you have something that other people want, just like everybody else, right? And so at that point, now you have to start competing on stuff that they're comparing you to, like price. And so now you're basically going against the Walmarts of the world, not really because they don't have a directory, but you know what I mean, that you're going against somebody else who has, the same valuable stuff you have, but they got a better name. They have more contacts, they're cheaper than you. And now you're trying to win on a game that you're not positioned to play well on, and you have to compete on price or something else, right? And so that's not a good spot to be in either. And so where you want to be, and again, this varies depending on what your market is, what your niche is, or your product or directory type, location. I mean, this varies depending on what it is, but you want to have to be in the money there. You want to be something that's valuable and something that nobody else has. So you're both valuable and unique. And so think about that when you guys are thinking about what services you're offering. Anything that you're adding on to the directory, both, is it unique to you, right? Who else is doing it? Maybe you can find something else. Or is it something that it's actually people are willing to pay for? So if it's either one of those things, if it kind of puts you in this direction or this direction as opposed to this direction, then maybe you don't add that in there because there's no value, or you don't add that in there because although it's differentiating, nobody cares or nobody would pay for it. It's not a price differentiating feature. And then at that point, you're just creating work for yourself, right? To try to add some features to a list, and all you're doing is spending all your time doing that, and it's not actually making money, and you're just spinning your wheels, wasting time on something that doesn't bring in the money. So I know there's a lot of lessons learned on that. And I'm just going to pause here on this one because I know there's been some discussion on this before. But anybody have any example on this or anything that they're thinking about now that I'm kind of showing this for the value proposition here in their business directory? Any, I guess, examples that anybody has? If not, that's fine. If you guys want to, think about that and jump in here at any time, feel free to do that. But I think everybody here, if they think about their directory or potential features or that they either have or want to do, and probably think about an example that will move them in one of these directions that's not going to get them here. And then you may want to, think twice about what you want to do for that particular feature. So in order to get to those two things, both unique and in value, this basically requires you to differentiate your offer from the competitors, right? I mean, it's obvious. That's what you need to do. And so as a minimum, you need to match your competitor on every dimension of value except for one, right? And you don't have to. I'm just saying this is the easiest way to differentiate, right? If you don't have some stuff that the other people have, it's going to be a detractor, right? Assuming that everything that they have is of value and is a differentiator for them, right? When you see a company or a competitor for your website that has this really cool feature that everybody's willing to pay for, and it's unique and they're the only ones that have it, if you're developing your directory, you're paying a developer to do something for you, you may want to pay to develop that, right? Because you want to match them on that because that's a detractor. That puts them in that quadrant. And if you don't have that, that's now something negative against yours that now maybe you have to beat them out on two things because you have to kind of make up for the other one that would put you equal. And then you got to have something extra to get you above there. And it's not obviously an exact science on that, but you get what I'm saying. You just realize that that's going to be what's weighing in people's mind. And if you can't pay for a developer to do that, or if the BD system just doesn't do that or can't do that, or you don't think it can get there, maybe that's how you got to position yourself on maybe downplay why that's not a big deal. And why your features are that much better. But just realize, just in general, when we're talking about this differentiating, you normally would want to match your competitors except for one item. in at least one element, so that one element of value, you need to excel. So you pick that element, right? It could be one element, it could be two elements. I mean, figure that out. And this gets into the competitive analysis, which we'll get to in a few weeks for this business stuff. But you want to excel at least above them on one of those things. And then when you do, and again, this is going to be one of those items that is a differentiator that people value really extremely, that something's really important for your niche that people will pay for. And we'll get into this a little bit later as well, but you want to make sure that you know that they're going to pay for that. So we've talked about surveys before in previous webinars, and some survey software as well, and market research and stuff like that. So it helps you guys to do that if you have not done that. But you want it to be valuable, right? That they're paid for, and it's unique. And then that one thing becomes your best choice for the optimal customer, right? And so now you are going to focus on, because you know that's your value added proposition for your business, that's your best choice for your optimal customer. So your customers are going to be people that are looking for that. And so when you're advertising, when you're talking about your why or what you do or whatever, it's focusing on that one item, because that's what you do really well, and that is your value added differentiator. I don't care necessarily about the stuff that I'm matching everybody else on. It may be a feature or a benefit, right? But you're really harping on this one, because that is your bread and butter of why people are going to pick from you. And it's fine talking about that, because again, it's of value and it's unique to you and nobody else has it. You see that all the time in advertising. They always tell you what that is. I'm just trying to think of stuff off the top of my head. Burger King. Our burgers are flame broiled, right? Don't want to have them on the grill like those other people. You want them to be flame broiled, right? And so that's their thing, and that's what they harp on their advertising, because nobody else has that, and presumably people want the charred burn flavor of a grill fire, right, as opposed to a griddle. And then finally, that there's a difference between the value proposition for your company and for your product, and you have to address both, right? And so sometimes it's true, if people are doing comparing the product and the feature set and just the non-emotional level of like, this is the best product or best burger, right? I'm buying it because of that. Other people may buy from you because you are going to stop deforestation and you only have grass-fed cattle, right? Or free-range cattle, or chickens, I guess there's free-range cattle, but, maybe they're just buying, from you because you're going to help the environment or whatever. And so now that gets into the emotional game, or maybe what you stand for as a company, not necessarily about the product, it may be both. So realize that there's a difference between those value propositions, and you may have to do that both on the emotional level and the product level. And that's why those overarching statements that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation do really well, because you kind of cover both bases for that. You say what you believe in, why you exist, where you're here, and then you also get to the end of that, what you actually do and what makes maybe your product unique, and it wraps them up in one sentence there for both of those. So just be aware of that you want to cover both of those. So that's kind of how you would want to differentiate from your competitors, but you have to do that, right? You have to differentiate from your competitors for some reason. You have to give them that one thing, right? The one thing that they would want to buy your product for. And so in order to answer that question, a lot of times people think that it's hard to come up with stuff that's, that one thing that is unique to them, right? The things that they offer the customer, because they think everything's been used before. They can't innovate, or there's nothing special about what BD offers or whatever. But and so sometimes these misconceptions raise in people's brains about what they can or cannot do. So the number one misconception about that innovation or coming up with something new is that innovation stems from ideas that nobody has had before. And this couldn't be farther from the truth, right? There's only a few phenomena that are actually new, right? Most ideas have been done before. They're just done in a different way, if that makes sense. So like, let's say Uber, for example, right? I mean, we've always had rideshare or companies that have done, dial up. We've had delivery stuff before, right? Where people ask for somebody and deliver. We've had taxis before, right? And so there's not really any new ideas in what Uber, started to do. It's just basically morphed from or adding in a couple of different ideas that have been done separately, and it just takes on a whole new meaning when you add them together, right? And so most of the best innovations are often adapted, refined, or combined. And so I always like to tell people this, and I've gone over this on another webinar before as well, but, of examples. But if you can, look at leaders in your industry or your niche or other directories, right? And that's why I always show people other people's directories, because sometimes they just get ideas, that will work for their niche, or they can change from other sites in their niche and just do something a little bit different. But if you can adapt, refine, or combine something that's new, right? You can present that as something new, as something, a differentiator from somebody else. And it's not a new idea. It's just adapted, refined, or combined from something that already existed. And so innovations are basically, existing business patterns with slight variations of something that has existed elsewhere in other industries or in other geographical areas, and you're just moving them over to your business. And the second misconception is that the big budget equals big success, and you need big resources to do that. Couldn't be, again, farther from the truth. There's so many things that you can do on a small budget, or if you just put your time into it, or you learn how to do something right. You don't have to pay for a huge customization or a huge plugin, or pay for a bunch of different software or whatever. To do some stuff. A lot of times you can just do it on the cheap, and that's why we like to go over stuff in the webinar here for you guys on how to do workarounds, right? Or how to be able to do different things. And sometimes it's just the idea and the execution that makes you better than somebody else, right? Because just because they have some software or they've got a different system or whatever, doesn't mean that you can't come up with something that's just as valuable to somebody if you do the old quote human touch, right? It could be your differentiator, it could be service, it could be customer care, it could be onboarding, white glove process, whatever that is for you. There's tons of stuff that's within your control that you can focus on for your differentiator until you can afford something else as a differentiator if you want to move to that later, right? So don't feel like that you can't do something or have a differentiator because you don't have a lot of money. There's tons of stuff that's in your control that you guys can do without the big resources. And then the last thing is and kind of on the same vein, but a little bit different, is the new technology. A lot of times innovative breakthroughs are always, everybody always thinks that the breakthroughs are always based on fascinating technologies, and they're not, right? A lot of times the man-made or the workaround or the how you do it is just as good as the technology, because a lot of times you lose some stuff in the process of having that technology, right? A lot of times when things get regulated or fancified, you kind of lose the touch, right? Let's say, we'll go back to Uber again. Let's say Uber and Tesla combine, right, in the future, and Tesla has self-driving cars with a robot driving you around, and you do it from an app, and you drive from one place to another. You kind of lose the cabbie touch, right, of jumping in and talking to somebody or having a conversation or asking them, where the best place is to go on your way there or whatever. You kind of lose that, right? And it's kind of the same thing with technology. Sometimes you lose aspects of different things or whatever, and sometimes just doing it your way, is better. So, new technology or new widget or whatever doesn't always have to be better. And sometimes people get distracted on that because a lot of times they get focused on, they need a specific customization, or they need to change a color or do X, Y, or Z or whatever because their customer cares about that. And all going back to that matrix again, right? People don't care. It doesn't add value. They're not going to pay money for that. Why are you wasting your time going after the shiny object? And a lot of times people think they need to do that to differentiate, and that's just not the case. So what I want to leave you with on this slide is, what's the competition doing, right? What does BD allow you to execute? You got to know, and that's why we kind of help you guys out in the webinar there. If you're a client of mine, as we work through stuff for consulting, what can the site do that you're not aware that it can do? Or what do you want it to do? Can it do that, right? And then what can you adapt, refine, or combine in your offering, either inside the system or service or whatever that is, in order to make your directory better. So I just want to go over a real quick example of this on the adapt, refine, combine, just for a local directory for an example on what you could do. So what you want to do is you want to adapt. I'll expand on the adapt, refine, combine, but you want to adapt weaknesses is something you can do, refine somebody's strengths and combine complementary services, for example. So here's something from a local directory for mine that I had to go through when I was originally looking at this. So we have we have a local chamber of commerce, right? But they had a directory, but they didn't have any event site of the directory or whatever. So they had a weakness. They didn't have any event stuff. So we tried to partner with the local chamber to provide an event part of that directory for the businesses in the local community because they didn't have that in their offering, right? And so instead of trying to maybe go face to face with somebody, maybe you adapt or adapt to somebody else's weakness and you add that for somebody in your directory. For the refining strengths, everybody maybe has heard of Nextdoor. I think I just got an email from them that said they're like in 145,000 neighborhoods worldwide, which is insane. There's not that many towns seemingly, but they said they're in 145,000 neighborhoods or something like that. And so they offer a lot of good stuff on there, right? So maybe you take a look at what they offer, and they have neighborhood sponsorships, for example, right? But that's advertising for businesses for the neighborhood stuff. So maybe you can refine that strength of them offering neighborhood sponsorships. Maybe I can do that for my local directory and have a static page with advertisements for a particular neighborhood, make a neighborhood page and have people sponsor a neighborhood page. So kind of refine something that they do and adapt it to the directory because Nextdoor is more of a communication thing, not necessarily for the directory. So maybe I'm refining somebody else's strengths, kind of borrowing and stealing that from mine. And then another example is combining complementary services. We have a local place for kids, and it's a lot of moms. They just kind of do they have events and they do a lot of blogging, but they don't have a directory for you to go find the information on the businesses that they have in their articles. And so maybe you can reach out to them and say, well, you've got the articles and all the blogging, but you don't have the directory. We've got all the businesses and stuff in our directory we can put on there. If you feature them in your articles, we'll put them in the directory. You can link back to that, and we'll provide you some kickback on the sales if you do that. So maybe somebody else does something that your directory is not as well or don't have the manpower to do. And you can combine complementary services on that. And so now, whereas you didn't have that group before, now you can tout that as a thing that we're involved with the community, and your business will get featured on the local huge blog thing for kids activities if you join our directory. So now you kind of have something else to tout. That's your unique proposition that maybe another local directory did not work out. So those are just a couple examples. Again, adapt, refine, combine, but you don't have to be innovative. You don't have to have a new technology. You don't necessarily have to pay a ton of money, and you can get value from your directory just by thinking about those particular things. And again, as you're figuring out what those things are, think about what you could do in your industry or your niche, and then how you're going to involve that in your value proposition that you're trying to portray for people. And so speaking of value proposition, this is going to be just, again, this is kind of an overview of the value proposition this week. And this is what we're going to be going over the next several weeks to talk about this value proposition framework for your business and your business plan or your directory, either now if you're just getting started, or how you can enhance and improve your standing or what you're talking about in your directory. But these are the 7 steps of a value proposition framework. So we're kind of like we talked about with the executive summary at the beginning of this business plan stuff, where it comes first, but you do it last. This is kind of the same thing for the value proposition, that you don't just come up with your value proposition, that's really the bottom of the pyramid here for your value proposition. It's really the last thing that you're going to do in this purpose section that we're going over. Before you can come up with that, you need to go through these other steps here for the value proposition. You need to know for your directory, what's the market? What's the total market that you're going into for your niche? What are the market segments that you're going to do inside of that market? Maybe it's a niche down target segment, that niche inside of that market and market segment that you're going to focus on. You want to do some of that market research on what those people are looking for. And so when you do that market research, you know what niche you're going to do. You can kind of look at what they want, what features you can provide them inside of your directory. And then from those features, you can start to delineate what benefits they're going to get to solve their issues based on the feature requirements of that market segment. And then based on those feature sets on what you're providing for different people at different levels, you're going to come up with your pricing and your menu or of feature sets, right, for your directory. And then from those, and from those pricings and features and benefits, when you break them up like that, then it has value. And then you can start to do advertising of why somebody would want to start paying for your premium service, right? But you got to go through you have to go through all these steps in order to have that positioning, right? And so a lot of times people don't go through this. You don't do your business plan, or you don't think about it. They jump right into they're just trying to make their sales page. That's the first thing they're doing, is starting to type out their pricing, and they haven't thought about the pricing or what the benefits are, or what features are going to be turned on or off, or what people actually want. And so it makes it very hard to delineate that for people, or to tell them what the value is when you don't even know what your niche requirements are, what people want in that niche, what features people are looking for, what they're willing to pay for, the benefits that you can do in BD or that you need to develop so you can come up with that differentiating thing, and then what people are willing to pay for that in order to make their pricing thing and delineate the value. So hopefully you guys see how complicated that is, but that's why people struggle. And because it does depend on your market segment, your niche, your location, what features you turn on or off, or can turn on or off inside of the website. And so this is what you want to go through in order to get to that value proposition. So bottom line is, once you're done, that value proposition is that clear and compelling statement about the unique value that your company brings to your particular niche market. And that value proposition is that clear, concise statement that summarizes why a customer should buy a product or use your service or purchase your directory membership. And that statement should convince a potential customer, basically, that your product or service will add more value or better solve their problem than any of the other offerings available. And it kind of goes back to that matrix that we talked about earlier of showing that you have value and it's unique and they want to buy from you. And that's when you're going to make the most sales, like we talked about earlier. So how do we express that value proposition effectively? So as you guys are researching this or rewatching this or just thinking about this over the coming weeks, even if you have a directory or if you're just starting out, ask yourself, why should my ideal prospect, the group you're trying to serve with your directory, why should they buy from me instead of a competitor? I mean, and if you can't answer that question, that's what they're asking themselves. So if you, the owner, can't answer that, then you've got some work to do, right? You got to think about your value proposition, whether you're unique or what you stand out. And if you can answer that question, or if somebody asks you that and you can't answer it back to them, you got some homework to do, right? And that's why we're going over the business plan stuff here. So even if you do have an answer, compare your answer with the claims of your main competitors, right? And so and this comes back to market research. If sometimes people say in their mind, like, the people buy from me is because we plant a tree every time somebody subscribes to us, and we're an earth-friendly directory, and they're going to buy from us because we plant a tree. Well, if you compare it to all your competitors and everybody else plants a tree, well, going back to the matrix again, you're not unique anymore. So if you thought that was why people are buying from you, they're probably not. That's why you're not making sales, because everybody else plants a tree. They're buying or not buying because of something else. So that's you want to compare it to your competitors. And then once you do, refine that value proposition until you can articulate it in a single, instantly credible sentence. And kind of going back to that initial sentence we talked about earlier, you want to be able to elevator pitch that, like blanket statement, say what you do in one sentence. And then just even more so, if you narrow it down to those 10 words, right, that describe why people should buy from your company instead of someone else, how would you communicate that? And that's really your mantra, right? That's what you tell people, and that mindset goes into all of your copy, right? Your newsletters, your H1 tag, your sales page, your pricing convincing, your features page, or whatever. All that, it doesn't have to revolve around that one thing, but it all should revolve around why they should be choosing you, right? It could be multiple things. It doesn't have to be one. I think I said that before. It's just kind of simplifying it down for your value proposition, but you want to be able to articulate that to people on what that is, but you need to do all of these steps. Think about it. Make sure you compare it to them. Make sure you're actually, they're willing to pay for that. It's unique and that you can articulate that for people. So here's a visual representation of that for those visual people here, and maybe this will make sense a little bit better. So if you have all of this stuff, right, this is your directory, right, of what your product or service or whatever you do. You have all of this stuff, right? You have usability, performance, durability, reliability, serviceability, conformance, aesthetics, features, whatever. It's all this stuff that your directory provides, or product does, or your service, right? But you want to focus on these two things. It needs to be aligned with the needs of the customer, right? They're going to pay for it. It's of value. And that creates more value than the competitors. It's unique. You have something extra, right? And so in general, if you have that customer value to them is basically that emotional and functional benefits minus the price that they paid, and that's value to them, right? So when you're evaluating all this stuff, this is kind of a different view of that matrix, right? Of these two items, but these are all your features. It needs to have that value needs to be more beneficial than the money they're paying, right? And we all know this, right? If it solves a real problem in your life or whatever, you're willing to pay for it, right? Because that value, that emotional and functional benefit, is greater than the price that you're paying, and it still has value. It's a positive value experience, right? If you pay $49.95 for some course, right, online, and it may only be $49, right? But if it's so terrible, like you go through the first video, it's grainy, there's nothing of value, it's from 1999, and it's just not even applicable today. It's like zero value. You're upset, right? Because that value, that benefit minus the price you paid, it's negative. It had negative value because I got nothing out of this. I paid $50. It's not even that much money. But you may pay something $200 for another course. It's a lot more money, right? But you get so much value out of it, you don't even care. You're like, I would have paid $500 for that course because of that equation, right? But one of the other things I want to mention here is that it's not just the functional benefits here, right? It's not just this stuff. It's also the emotional. And we touched on this earlier slides as well, that it's the emotional part as well. And so here's another visual piece of that to kind of expand it out a little bit, right? So you still have the products, sell the services, right, that you do, and that value of what you're providing. But it's both the rational, right, that saves time, money, quality, performance, the stuff that we went over on the previous slide, right, this stuff. And it's also the emotional. It's the esteem, that you feel good, that they provided entertainment. You got a relationship out of it. Well, I got community. It's both the rational and emotional. So when you're providing, and this kind of gets back to that, what I was talking about earlier, where you think it always has to be the technology, or you have to come up with something new. Sometimes it's just the emotional execution, right, of your business, of whatever you're talking about, or your niche, or your value, or service that you're providing as a person or a business that pushes them over the edge, that makes you unique. It doesn't have to be a unique part of the product. It could be a unique part of your service, like that makes distinction. But it's both the rational and the emotional. So when you combine all of that stuff, that increases the value. So when the emotional and rational benefits minus the price, you get that competitive value. And so this competitive value, that difference of both those things, that's what you're trying to provide in that strategic statement for your business, or your portrayal on sales copy, sales page, feature page, funnel page, etc. Okay, so we talked about this. I'm not going to deep dive onto this. We went on to this on another webinar before as well. But this is some of the emotional stuff that we've talked about before. That it's not the functional is at the bottom of the pyramid, and the higher emotional stuff is higher. So what this basically is there's a company back in 2016. It was called Bain and Company. They did 3 decades of experience doing customer research from their company and observation of corporate clients. And stuff like that. And they kind of just did this white paper on elements of value is what they call it. And they came up with these 30 fundamental attributes that they called elements of value. And they're basically derived from scores of quantitative and qualitative customer studies that they did over 30 years as a company. And it's really cool how they did it. And obviously it funnels up like a triangle, right? It looks pretty. But each element is basically added onto a hierarchical level, basically like Maslow's hierarchy of needs that I'm sure everybody is vaguely familiar with, right? So it goes from functional to emotional to life-changing and then social impact at the top. And it basically breaks them down in those pyramids and basically provides more objective value at the base, and then those that are more subjective at the top of the pyramid there. And it obviously varies according to industry and culture and demographics and niche for your directory or whatever. But they did notice that, that if you were able to deliver on those higher elements, the company still has to provide some of these foundational functional benefits at the bottom before these become of value. Right. And so any of the bigger companies you see that are kind of focused on this stuff, they started out with this functional basis for their company, and then for your directory, right? That you still have to provide, choose strategically which ones they're going to do. And so obviously when you look at this list and there's 30 of these values, you can't pick all of them, right? You can't do all 30 of these items. You got to pick some of them, but you got to pick them strategically. So, I implore you guys to go back and look at this, video or whatever, to kind of take notes of some of these, of what your directory does, and strategically pick some of these that you're going to focus on, what you're going to do for your directory. So speaking functionally, are you going to save them time? Are you going to, and these are also feature sets, obviously you can put on your directory, but save them time. Are you going to simplify? Are you going to make them more money, reduce the risk? Are you going to help them organize stuff? Are you going to integrate with some stuff that they can't do unless they use your directory? Are you going to connect them with people or other resources? Are you going to reduce the effort for the business? Maybe avoid some problems or hassles? Maybe cut their costs, increase the quality of their business, variety of capabilities or links that they wouldn't otherwise have. The old sensory appeal, maybe it's just so beautiful, right? Your directory is well designed, or maybe you're providing the information that they can't find anywhere else, right? So these are the functional things that your directory may provide, but pick some, right? Maybe one of these things is that one thing that you provide that nobody else in your niche or directory in your area provides. You're going to hang your hat on that functional ability. And then maybe eventually, maybe not now, or maybe you can, or at some point, maybe you provide this stuff with additional plugins or additional software or additional people, right? At a later point for these emotional levels, right? Maybe you reduce some anxiety if it's more of a wellness type or health thing. Maybe you provide rewards. Maybe it nostalgia, right? It's an old fashioned thing. It does what other people used to do, and you're providing nostalgia. Maybe designer aesthetics. You pay for extra, money to make your design look cool. Maybe you have badge value, right? A notoriety or credibility. Maybe you help their wellness or therapy for them that they wouldn't otherwise had. Maybe it's just fun, entertainment, attractiveness. They make other people more attractive because they're on your site, because you build a reputation and they have that notoriety from being listed on your site. Or maybe it provides access to people, right? We talked about that with Rich earlier for his podcast or stuff. Maybe it provides access to people they wouldn't have otherwise been able to get. All right. And then that final one is the final 2 levels of their life-changing and social impact, right? And so we may not ever get to that for your directory, and we can all dream, right? But maybe provides motivation or self-actualization or hope, right? Or the old self-transcendence, right? You're doing something greater than yourself. You're providing that social impact. But, some of these are harder to achieve than others. right? But as you pick some of these, maybe you can have a game plan of how you're going to do that for your directory. And so I did this before. I just want to kind of show you an example of something that you could go through for your directory. So let's say, and I you don't want to pick all 30 of them, but let's say these are the things that you pick for your directory, your elements of value for your website that you're going to pick. So pick inform, quality, reducing cost, avoiding hassles, reducing effort, providing access, and affiliation, right? So let's say those are your things. And so you can weave those items or those words into your statements. And I just gave an example of my local Hudsonville directory that I have that I did before as an example here, and I kind of highlighted them in yellow for you guys to look at, right? So so here's some statements, right, for the 3 different types of people that would use my local directory. So for professionals, consumers, and then just advertisers, whether they have a business or not, or a professional on the directory. So, for professionals, we simplify your information dissemination by providing products and services that save you time and reduce costs. For consumers, and we help you avoid the hassle and effort of using multiple sites for local information. And we provide a community of relevant services, products, and businesses, quality resources close to home for you. And then for the advertisers, you could tell them that we provide access to viewership based on local topic sets, enable brand recognition, and advertising opportunities that make you money, right? So these are the kind of some of the foundations and functional or emotional things that we went over in there, but these are the keywords. And again, you don't have to do this. I kind of elaborate on this to drive home the exact point of those exact keywords, right? But you get the point that you want to try to help them or show them those elements of value for their particular issue, whether, depending on what type of client they are for your website. And then you'll be, halfway there in terms of, getting them as a client when you can kind of show them how they fit in your particular directory. So last thing I want to do for you today, I just want to kind of leave you with this question of why do people say yes to your product or service for this value proposition as you're developing this stuff? So as we go over the next couple of weeks down these different topic sets of that value proposition from market research to looking at the problem, these are the 3 things you really need to be looking at as you're developing that value proposition. The fact is, the first thing is problems. Your customers have a pain, or they have something that they want to gain, right? They want to avoid, having a heart issue because of their health, or they want to be able to run a marathon, right? They want to be able to do something, right? They have a pain or gain, and that's something you have to address. So people don't buy, the things or services to fix people do buy things, right, to fix a problem or to fill a need or desire, right? And so what is that for your particular people, right? And so when you pick those, when you think about what people are willing to pay for, the things that are of value for your particular niche, right, this is the question that you're answering yourself. What are they going to be willing to pay for? What problem or gain do they need to fill in order to do that? If you can answer that question, you can adequately start down that process of market research, analysis, features, benefits, value that you can portray when you know what they want to avoid or what they want to gain. And the next thing is for the solutions, right? You're going to have that solution to that problem that we're going to go over as part of this business plan. You're going to provide products or services that include features that provide for the solution. So what you want to do is convince that potential consumer that your particular product or service will add more value or better solve a problem than other similar offerings in the marketplace, right? And so that's what you're doing in a nutshell from the previous slides we talked about, right? If you see other competitors that have stuff that doesn't matter and you have the solution to their problem, you're going to get the sale, right? But you don't want to convince them that you have a solution to a problem that they don't have. That's a losing battle, right? You want to be able to know that those feature sets that you're providing is a solution to a problem that they have that they're looking for a solution for. And the sale makes itself at that point, guys. If you can do that, if you know they have the problem and you provide it and you have the corner in the market and you're better than the other people, they're going to buy from you, right? If not, they just either didn't know about it or you're off based on what they value, or your solution actually doesn't solve the problem, right? But if it does, they're going to get sales. And the third thing is the benefits, right, that your customers are going to receive. They're either going to have the pain relieved or gains achieved. I was looking at another I was watching another webinar the other day, and it made a really good point about courses, right? If you're developing a course, you don't need to include everything in the course. People would rather pay for a shorter course if you solve the problem, because that's really all they care about, right? They don't need to read the Library of Congress on a web page to be able to know that they want to use your product. All they need to know is that you're going to solve their pain or help them gain what they wanted. And if you do that, they're going to buy from you. That's all they're looking to do. And so you basically need to transfer that vision in your head onto paper so people can understand and support that vision, your solution fills that gap for them, and they're going to buy it, or they're going to listen to your course, or they're going to watch your webinar, whatever it is, because you provide the problem, you provide a solution, and you're the quickest way for them to relieve the pain or to achieve the gain. And if you guys can do those three things and you focus on that as you guys develop the value proposition, that's going to be the winning model there. And so, how do you do that? Right. As you're going through there, I talked about surveying before, but your target market, but you need to talk to people, right? And we've talked about it before. You don't want to do it in a vacuum. The value comes from when you answer those questions. It's what the impact your directory had on other people, right? It's the impact that it had on them personally, right? Maybe on their department or organization if they're a business, maybe their company as a whole. If they're a business owner, your clients have a business. Or maybe if you're providing a service in your directory to a business that has clients, maybe it's the end result that you have to their clients, right? It's one of those four things. It's either them, a part of their business as a whole, or their business as a whole's customers. One of those four things. The value comes from what impact you have on them, right? And so you need to know what their problems are, right? You need to know what their pains are. You need to know what they want. You need to know that your solution is working for them. If it's not, maybe you change what your directory is offering. Maybe you ask them, and maybe the price point's off. Maybe what features you have turned on for BD are wrong. Maybe you have them turned on, but maybe they didn't know how to use them, right? And so this really encompasses everything that we've talked about in a lot of these webinars. Whether it be onboarding or the funnel or the requirements, the needs, or your pricing model. The value comes from what impact you have on them. And if there's no impact, something's wrong. Got the wrong problem, got the wrong product, got the wrong niche, got the wrong pricing, got the wrong whatever, right? And so you want to do this ideally at the beginning in your market research, right? So you have the right niche and you have all those things right. So when going back to this will be the last slide for today, but going back to this value proposition framework, right? You want to have all of these 7 things proper so that you're in the right market, you're in the right segment, you're in the right niche, you got the right features, you have the right benefits and solve people's problems that people are willing to pay for to provide value. And that when you get to the bottom of the pyramid and you solve their problems with your solution and you can relay the benefits to them, that is your value proposition. You're able to show them the elements of value on the pyramid, and then be able to know that you have a competitive value, that you provide more benefits than the price you're solving because you've researched, and that you create more value than your competitors by filling a need that your customers have. So I know that was a lot of stuff there today. Just kind of a broad brush for future discussions, but a lot of stuff that, frankly, a lot of business owners haven't thought about, right? Haven't really sat down and wrote on paper or interviewed some people to get those things, and they're just guessing, right? They're wondering why they don't have the value or they're not getting the right pricing or people don't understand their benefits is because it is the wrong benefits. People aren't willing to pay for that, and they haven't had a perceived value shift in their business lives or otherwise. And your business is not going to be a success because of that. And so if you need to adapt, that's why people do business plans. So again, even if you don't want to do business plan, maybe some of the stuff you guys can look at, analyze, and tweak, right? Because you always want to, if it's off, you want to do it while you're running the business. You don't want to keep going down the wrong rabbit hole. You want to adjust fires on that stuff so you can make your business a success. So with that, again, I'll toss it over to you guys. Any thoughts on that? Any lessons learned? Any rethink stuff on that from your business or from your experience that anybody wants to go over? Back to the audio here. Deborah, welcome. You're probably on silent mode again today. That's fine. Anybody have anything? Is anybody still there? I know there's lots of people here, but Mike, welcome. Toby, you got something?
Not for me. That was all good. Interesting stuff. Quite right. Quite a lot of stuff that one forgets or doesn't do.
Very true. And that's why I always, say on there is, not everybody has the answers. I don't have the answers, all the answers, right? And you don't have all the answers. That's why people keep learning and keep readjusting fires. If you guys do a business plan and write that up, that's why it's always good to go back to rely on previous stuff that you've had and you adjust fires on what you thought were, assumptions that were maybe invalidated, right, with execution. But a lot of times it's there for background research. And so if you don't have that stuff set up, you haven't thought about it, you're like throwing darts at a dartboard, right? And hoping to hit the bullseye, and you end up with the one pointer, right? And you're not making any money. So the more you can kind of think about that of the business canvas or work through that stuff, the more successful you can potentially be. So. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? We still normally got a half hour here, but does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns about this? BD otherwise? Scott, welcome. All right, let me just double check the chat here.
Howdy.
Hey, Scott. Hey, I'll get back to you in a second, Scott, if you have something to say. Sean said, do I help or assist to set up BD? I definitely do. So let me just go over that real quick of my PSA announcement. Hey, somebody just gave me a thumbs up. I think it's the first time I've seen a thumb floating across the screen. That's pretty cool. So let me just go share my screen again here. So Sean was asking if I do that. So if you guys go to Directory Toolkit, looks like you have caps on, DirectoryToolkit.com. What this is basically, I have some videos on here, some other help articles, have some customizations that are available for sale on here as well. But I just do other customizations as you need it as well. We have other directory members who have other services that directory owners can avail themselves of here, products as well. You guys can do that. But otherwise, in terms of consultation, if you guys need some help setting up BD, I'd be willing to help you out with that as well. You guys can just go to the bottom of the page here and just book a consultation here with a Zoom call. And you don't have to pick the existing client if you're a new client. Just looking for an initial consultation call. Here, you can just click the free initial consultation just to talk about what your needs are. And just click schedule now there. And once you do that, you can pick a day and time, and it'll make a Zoom meeting for you and me for that particular meeting. So definitely do that, and feel free to reach out to me if anybody needs help on that. And that's where you go, just DirectoryToolkit.com at the bottom of the page. Scott, did you have a question today?
I did not. Just popped in to say hello.
I do have something that I was going to show you, just maybe of interest. Let me just go find it in my notes here real quick. I did find another interesting hotel widget that you could edit. I haven't put it on the website, but I thought it'd be interesting to look at. If I don't remember if you're still looking at doing something different, but it's called stay22.com.
Huh.
And let me so it's kind of the same thing where there's just anybody can add a script in there, but you just dynamically change the address and check in date or whatever. And then what it basically does, it gives you kickback on the housing, but this is kind of what it looks like basically, where it kicks in there, but it has I think booking.com, it's got Expedia, and I think VRBO, and I think Airbnb as well. You can turn on here as well. So it's kind of got 4 different major players in here, but you can zoom in and then look at the particular location and book it, and it just goes directly to that VRBO or whatever to book it, and it obviously has all the code integration stuff. So it may be a little bit less than you'd normally get with a direct one, but it kind of, obviously they siphon off part of the commission fee, and then you get some of the other some of it as well. But it just kind of conglomerates all of those different things into a map view based on a location. The cool thing is you can do different filters too. So you can do budget and room type and review score, hotel stars, and total or per night fees and stuff as well. So to kind of filter them out.
And Ryan, that's for directories to be able to get affiliates?
Well, it's not necessarily directory. It's just one of these plugins that you can do on any site, right? It's just got a JavaScript script widget that you can put in your thing. So what you would do inside of your BD directory is you would get an account with these guys, grab that script, add it to your directory, and then instead of that, right, with the city and town, you would then put in your BD code, right, for swapping out the address variable, right? It'd be the percent address, right? Or
right,
whatever,
Ryan,
whatever that code was.
If you want to show them, one of the listings on the site, feel free. If you want to
on yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to do that without you letting me know.
Yeah, I'm good with you doing it. It's there, it's public, so it is what it is.
All right, so this is a different one that's on Scott's site here, but we'll just go show the use case here for an example. So I'll just search and go find a particular track in his site, and so what he's got in here is something similar, a little bit different product or process, but virtually the same thing, but has this, let's say we're going to the Speedway for a particular location.
You might want to go back to a different track. Salmon Valley has like one hotel within 100 miles of it. It's in the middle of
Idaho. That's fine. And we're just getting the example here. So if you go to the Plan Your Trip tab, so it automatically knows where that Speedway's at. Right, you can look for a hotel near there for the dates of a particular, and we have this for the event too. If there's a particular event date, you can find something around that date or whatever, and so you just have to click the Find Hotels Nearby, and then it actually goes to the reservation server for that particular location, and then it goes to hotels nearby racetracks, and finds all your hotels that are at that racetrack for that race weekend, and you can find it straight away from his site. So,
and it ranks them by distance to the track. So the first one is 3.5 miles away, then 3.8 miles away, then 13. So it just gives race fans an opportunity to plan their trips a little bit better.
Nice one.
You can also look for it on the map. You can click map view on the top left there, and you can see them on the map too. Like I said, middle of Idaho, not a lot out there.
It's one of those locations where you want to make sure you have a full tank of gas, kind of like going through the northern Pennsylvania.
For sure. Anyway, it's a neat little implementation. Ryan knows what he's doing with adding those codes, whether it's this one that I'm using or the Stay 22. The challenge with all these, as I found, is that the commission that you earn on it, because somebody else has taken a portion of it first, they aggregate all the hotels together. So when somebody else takes a portion of it first, you're getting a portion of their portion.
Right.
Um,
And that's
so-
why I mentioned that for everybody here for this one as well, because it is what it is for that too. It's the same thing, right? They're taking their thing off the top and then giving you the scraps at the bottom, but it's scraps that you wouldn't have otherwise had potentially, right?
Yeah, it comes out. I end up getting maybe a buck a night per hotel stay if they're done. I mean, fans haven't used it a ton yet. I think people are still getting used to traveling and all that stuff and actually staying in hotels. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's revenue that I don't have to do anything for, so it is what it is.
Yep. But I just thought I'd throw it your way just as another potential
Thank you.
item. I just ran across that one. So, anything again? So, anything new from you guys? Any other questions, comments, and concerns? Otherwise, we'll end early today. So next week, I think we're going to go over, just for everybody, or actually in 2 weeks, we'll be going over the problem part of that of the or maybe market. I think that's the top of the thing. So maybe market research kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff on market analysis too. There's a lot of free stuff with the at least here in the U.S. Toby, I don't know about you, or I think there's some other people in Scotland here, actually in South Africa and a couple other places. So I'm not sure if they have them in your countries, but a lot of stuff at the Small Business Administration they have a lot of free resources and stuff in terms of market research. So a lot of people just don't even realize are there that you can just get free data, right, in terms of your particular niche. Whether it be pricing stuff or number of people, locales, locations, zip codes, and just demographic kind of information that just different government organizations have or research institutes make available to the government that you guys can get information on. So a lot of good stuff on there, but we'll go over that in the future. Rich, you're quiet this week. Anything else? Any other questions?
I was just I was taking a closer look at that the shopping cart. It looks like a kind of a two-step process, and you got to, it looks a little bit more than, because another one I was using was it's not as flashy or whatever, but it does a job. Let me see where it's at. I added a merch tab under Marketplace merch store. And I'm trying to think of the brand here. See what you think about this one.
It's on your site?
Yeah, because there's no monthly fees. With the other one, you have to do, it does look cool with that Together Well shop, but it's $15 a month. And then you have to use kind of two different integrations. And so this one is under, what's it called? Well, it's on our site.
I just went to the merch store. Is that where you put it?
Yeah. Do you see it under Marketplace in the merch store?
No, it's right here. It's just not loading. There we go.
There's so much merchandise there.
Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah, and it's just flying out the door. Or whatever, yeah. So it's under Cotton Cart. It's called. If you scroll down. Near the bottom, you'll see powered by Cotton Cart.
I see what you're doing. You weren't paying attention to my slides. You were just looking at shopping software.
Yeah.
That's why there were no questions.
Yeah. I was trying to, because so it's not a really high tech thing, but, typically most sites, you're not selling a ton of merch unless you're really, big time brand or whatever, so and so
I'll take
it's free. It integrates pretty well, and actually we kind of carried it over. I realized I've got to update that because I created it for our Pro Business Channel brand, and so I just kind of testing it for the directory. So I have to create another account just for PD, and then but the brand will be
how are you so this is another drop ship thing?
Yeah, so they drop ship directly or whatever. Yeah. But I'm also trying to remember though, is that I think I I might have ordered the sample mug from them.
This looks like a British company though, so I don't know if you want to use that one.
Yeah, it opens a whole other can of worms there. Yeah.
No, I'm just joking, but
Yeah.
actually serious on that, because sometimes in those drop shippers
For the shipping,
they're shipping it from, I don't know, they may have a U.S. distribution thing, I'm not sure, but obviously you don't want to pay international shipping, just like I wouldn't recommend necessarily UK to use a U.S. site either. It makes more sense to
right?
It does go on. It does go on to use dollars at the end of that line.
Oh yes, if it's in sales in the USA, okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean. That's, I always pause at places that are advertising other stuff that has nothing to do with t-shirts to try to make money. Do you make music? Try Dizzy Jam. I'm like,
right, yeah.
A teacher. But yeah, I mean, it all comes down to how much you, obviously $15. What's the merch store worth to you, or no branding or integration or ease of stuff. Right. I would always recommend, just something I haven't done either. I don't know. Sometimes you can look at the amount of money you make too, and it may make more sense to go with one. So, for example, you get 25% of the retail on every purchase, right? So, maybe another one gives you 40% of the retail of every purchase. And then, so that's where the hidden cost is at, right? Because you make less on the purchase, although it's not, quote, costing you $15 for the Equid store. Maybe the other one gives you 40% and you're actually going to make more money, even though you give away money for the store, than you would using this one that gives you less of the retail. Now, I'm sure there are probably more than, so we use Printful as another example. It's probably more than this one. Just because it's a higher end stuff, they probably give you less than that, but maybe not. I don't know honestly how much you get there. Let's see.
But Printful, I don't think there was. It's the integration or the embedded code. A lot of these, like I'll get excited about or whatever, but then they don't do the embedded code, so you have to use another service. But
this one does have local fulfillment, right? So they're all over the world, so Australia or Japan or
right,
wherever. So they kind of go locally. But we see
gears on another topic we talked about, I think 2 weeks ago, was the crowdfunding, and I actually used your suggestion with your platform, and we got our first donation. It's like you can see it live on our site, but I had a bit of an aha moment. See if this kind of, makes sense. Or what I have a friend that it's called a BFO. You know what a BFO is? It's called easy. It's called a blinding flash of the obvious.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, like, if you go to our site, I think and go to the store, back to the story of mission. I have embedded in there the crowdfunding.
Yep.
So I use the service you were talking about.
Yeah.
Crowdfundly. But after doing all that and all these things, a ton of time, I thought instead of going through all this, because if you go back to like the page, I kind of tell the whole story on the page, and I have the video on there, the whole 9 yards, right? Mm-hmm. So picture this: if you go back to that page, instead of having them leave the page again, like going to a merch store that's not on the site, or going to another website or whatever, is why not just put a and I think it's a really recent thing on BD, where you can put a pricing table right within the site. What do they call them? Modules or something, or the drag and drop blocks? Yeah, the blocks. So you could put the block on there, because most donations are one time, right? But you could actually make it a recurring. So we could make it say $4.
Are you talking these things here?
Yeah. So I haven't done it yet, but basically within there, there's a membership plan. So I could just drop a membership plan in there, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean,
then-
this is the horizontal one. So if anybody isn't familiar with this, normally you have the vertical, side by side one. This is the horizontal version that they've had in the new join page for a while. If you got a new directory, it has the horizontal instead of the vertical initially, but they just never had it in the module before. But yeah, this is the horizontal version. But yeah,
But I could do, to me, this is like a big time BFO, blinding flash to the abyss, right? So I'm not having them go to another crowdfunding platform or whatever, right? They're already on my site. And then I just create a plan that's like, because we can make a plan that's a one-time fee, right? So a one-time donation basically, and change all that verbiage, obviously, instead of plan and membership, it's like make your $4 donation.
Yeah. The only thing you lose that we talked about last week though is the if you want a separate Stripe account for your donations, or you want to have something listed officially somewhere else that's more of a tax write-off separated type thing, or you lose some of the social share potential capabilities that those other things provide, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some drawbacks, but yeah, I mean, obviously keeps them on site or whatever, and then better. Or you can just maybe embed that, on a page if you want.
Yeah, and the beauty of this is I can have them, 2 boxes. I can do one drag a membership plan for like that one-time donation, and then I could have another box in there that says a monthly, kind of like the SPCA and of these groups. PBC, PBS, when they do their campaign drives, it's $12 a month kind of thing, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can put a live stream of your telethon on your
right, exactly.
Your page.
Yeah.
But Rich, are you expecting people to come onto your site and not knowing you and make that donation?
Yeah, just because of the premise of like we're going to a conference and it's podcasting for good, so it's within the podcasting community, and to kind of rally behind the cause or whatever. Yeah.
So you're advertising it on your podcast at the time that you're doing it, and you're suggesting that they go to your page to do it.
To the podcast and the members, and we're gonna we have a lot of kind of campaigns around that. I mean, what are you thinking in terms of?
Well, I'm just thinking that Joe Public is probably more likely to give if they know that it's going to an official crowdfundly organization rather than they don't.
That's what I was saying. You kind of lose that positioning, right? On a different site. So
yeah, I mean that's a trade-off, and then because we've kind of pivoted based on the last conversation about this of not. I've took all of the the nonprofit piece off of it because that won't start until at least November, and that opens up a lot of challenges until we have the nonprofit status, whatever. So
increase your merch by $2 and offer $2 as a donation as well.
Yeah, that's where we're going to kind of piggyback some stuff into, like, if you make the donation, then we're going to give you some other perks. And that was an advantage of the crowdfunding, which I think is kind of unique of all the crowdfunding platforms I looked at, is you can do it as a donation, like for a nonprofit, but you can also make it as a perk. So there's 2 kind of entry points. One you can give them kind of rewards or perks, which is kind of unique. Which is kind of what Kickstarter and everything's based on. So it's almost like you have Kickstarter meets GoFundMe, right?
Oh,
I wouldn't want to be your accountant.
Yeah.
Like I said, you have to give $1 or more. They anticipated what I was going to do.
Oh, I didn't know you were on there. On your screen?
Yeah, you don't see the screen?
No, I don't think so. It just shows all of the.
Yeah, it's set at $4. That's why.
Oh, I see. I switched off of.
No,
yeah, it's separate.
I was just joking. I was going to put a penny in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like $1 or more. So I can do. You can do alternate amounts. So.
Yeah, you can do more than $4, but I think that's the starting point.
Less.
Because the whole premise here is and I kind of retooled the branding of that. It's Channel 4 Good, and and I guess I didn't update it here, but everywhere else it's updated. That it has the number 4.
Yeah.
In the if you go back to the site or back to the tab, yeah. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see people holding up. That's kind of telling the story behind it. You go down a little bit further, it kind of tells the story. And then when it asks for the donation, there's Channel for Good there.
Yeah, I do like the number there. If that's gonna.
Yeah, and there's the hook right there. This is what we're going to really kind of push. Is we're not asking for people to donate $100 or some people feel like, oh, $4 is not going to make a difference, so I probably should contribute more or whatever. I'm going to be kind of cheap if I do only put, but that's the idea is like, and so when people do, like we're going to a conference in August, and the idea is to get everybody to hold up when they make a donation to hold up the 4. So they're basically contributing to Channel 4 Good, right? And so that's kind of social media gold. If you can imagine everybody holding that up, it's kind of like the what was that campaign where people would do the ice bucket challenge,
right?
So then you had pictures of people.
So you're trying to go viral on TikTok, is what you're trying to do. That's a whole nother segment.
Right. Yeah. So that's where
challenge.
So hearing you guys, I mean, it's helpful to kind of this, brainstorm and get the feedback, because I was kind of excited about embedding, for simplicity's sake, the donation right there. But like you said, with the crowdfund but then they are leaving my site. But then the beauty of that is, it can go to a separate Stripe account, because unless BD is able to create, I don't know how they would be able to do that from one site, but
yeah, I don't think you can do multiple. You can't do multiple Stripe accounts in the back end.
Right.
You only do one. I'll only do one. Now, what you can do in the back end of Stripe, and so I haven't done it, so don't quote me on this, but you can make another API or another hash tag or whatever, the code for the other segment. So I think you can parse them after the fact inside of Stripe or whatever out afterwards based on which code it's using, because that they do that. So you can, like, let's say you're using it for BD and then you shut your BD store down, but you're using Stripe for a bunch of other stores or something. You can shut down your code for the BD one, so that one never can get used anymore, but it's still pulling money to your account from the other ones. So I think if you have a separate API, secret code or whatever for that one, I think you can probably parse out after the fact in Stripe's database or whatever. But don't quote me on that. I don't know if it just gets dumped in there, and that's more just for
the other advantage, because it's it's kind of a yin and yang here, whatever. I mean, it's like a coin toss. The other advantage of staying with the drag and drop with the membership plan instead of using another service is most all those they charge, Kickstarter or some of these charge up like 9% of your money you raise, whereas and they're still going to charge you your 30 cents per transaction and still your 2.9. You still have to pay the Stripe fees, right? But if we keep it on the membership plan, then not only they're not leaving the site, but also the other perk is all of your members already have their credit card on file, right?
Yeah.
So if we're getting
and so for those of you who don't know that you can do this, there's an option. I know you know this, Rich, but there's a post type for. If you go into the post settings, there's a separate post type for it's called digital download post type. That's my package notification from my the van that just rolled up. So there's a post type in here that is called I think you changed it. It's normally called it is website digital product. So it's on here as digital products, but you can sell whatever you want. We're talking about T-shirts or coffee cups.
Existing client, invoice call, Anthony Tony Romeo.
We can you can sell whatever products you want, digital products, whatever, T-shirts, but it can be whatever you want. But what it does is that you make a product in there, you add a price in there, you can do inventory and stuff on there, but you basically add the price, and then when they click on that to buy, it just charges their credit card on file that they have in your directory, or if they're not signed up, it prompts them to sign up for your website. So if you are doing that and you don't have a free option to sign up, you'll want to turn that on, because it's going to force them to sign up for your website in order to purchase that digital item. So if you just have memberships only, unless that's a requirement there, you'll want to have a free option so they can sign up for the free and then purchase the product. But it does charge, directly to their credit card that's on file. So that's true. But again, you're back into the parsing, thing out if that's going to be an issue for tax purposes or whatever later potentially. So.
But Rich, if you're only asking for $4, that payment, and you're not having $4 go into any other, you're not having another plan that's going to be at $4, you could create one of these digital products.
Yeah.
Set it alongside your what was the other thing called? Crowdfundly, and use your Crowdfundly as being showing that your authenticity of what you're doing, but maybe make the button for this digital product is save some of the fees, and because you're already a member, pay direct, and make it attractive that your members use your direct solution rather than your crowdfunding solution.
Okay, so you're having like two tabs. One, members click here, non-members get directed to crowdfunding.
Yeah, I think you need your crowdfunding in order to develop, and maybe in 3 years' time you don't need it, but to begin with, you need them to know that you're not just pocketing this for this money.
Right. Yeah, it gives the legitimacy to it.
Aura of credibility.
Credibility, yeah.
That's the word, yeah.
Something I do, something me and Toby do not have. So
yeah, really. It's a good way to do this. But because it's $4 only, right? Or not only, because it's $4, you're going to be able to easily find that.
Oh yeah.
In your from your accounting
oh, yeah.
point of view.
Exactly.
Well, so here's maybe the built-in model. Maybe you just do it to get people to sign up in general. When you just say, hey, $4 of every membership is going to this thing, help this cause by paying for a membership. And so you're just doing it, every time somebody signs up. And so maybe you'll get money as well, even though, they're potentially just buying it to help out that maybe pushes them over the edge to just go ahead and do it just to make, help that out.
Well, that's actually the headline. If you go to the the title of the page, yeah.
You didn't expect me to read the page, did you?
You've got to read the text.
Yeah.
What is this stuff here?
Rich, also the other thing is you could choose your mug or choose a product that you're not, that you have one standard color, let's say. I'll use gray for the moment, but say anything gray is got an added amount of money on it. So a red mug costs you $5, but a gray mug will cost you $9. Because your $4 are going off to the charity.
Well, it actually, if you go right above the merch store right there, Ryan, it kind of says that in the line, but obviously I need to kind of promote this a little bit more. So just right above the merch store, well, that's 100% of the merch, but just a hair above the merch or above the save the page, I guess above that form, above the Google form right there, a portion of the proceeds from member add-ons. So this was my early iteration of this, because it is, if you highlight that portion of the proceeds. So the idea here is member add-ons, kind of what you're saying. So I could basically charge anytime somebody posted a content, maybe I just pick every time you post a video or any of these items or a single item, I can, price that at $4, right? And then say, portion of all the member add-ons goes towards the Channel for Good. I mean, I'm just experimenting with different, messaging and avenues, and obviously I got to land on a, some definitive, messaging here.
Well, and so I don't need to know how much of a portion that you'd be providing, but that's what always goes through my mind when I see these things. I honestly just ignore those whenever I see a portion of the proceeds, because every time I find out and I look in the fine print, they're like 2% of all don't. I'm like, seriously, like now I don't like your company. Like it's actually negative, because now I feel like. But whereas I've seen other ones that literally say like 50% of all proceeds are going to this thing, and I'm like, wow, okay, 50%. But then it just kind of depends on what your market is or your people. Like sometimes it goes through my brain too, is that like maybe they don't want to donate to that. They just want to buy your services, which again, there's nothing illegal about just wanting to pay for what you're getting and not donate, right? When you're on the checkout line of the grocery store and they say, do you want to donate $20 to recover a limb for a child that lost it in an accident? Do you feel bad when you say, no, I don't want to pay $20. I just want to pay for my groceries. Like, you're not going to get hit by lightning or whatever, but sometimes people just want to pay for the groceries. Right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So sometimes that could detract people and are like, well, some people are like, wow, 50%. I feel great about this. It's 50%. Some other people are looking at that going, I'm paying 50% more than I need to. I don't want to pay for that. So I just want to pay for my article, So there's always going to be two sides of the coin on that. And, sometimes it may be better to be generic, or may help to be more specific, or maybe it doesn't sometimes. So.
Yeah, the challenge is trying to, tie in these cross promotions that can, on paper, and the intent is great, but it can kind of cause buyer confusion, or not buyer confusion, but just.
Well, I would definitely say that, like we talked about in the presentation earlier, that you weren't watching because you were looking for stores. I was basically, saying you don't have to have a book on here, right? Sometimes just simple is better. So that would maybe be the thing I would say, is just make it very clear, what it is, and then how they can help. And then just make it very clear, a couple steps where they can, deep dive, in areas. But it's very clear what the header groups are for like what we do. And then they're like, oh, I'll read that later. How you can help. Okay, great. And then, okay, wait, this donation. Yes, click. And just make it very simple, because the fact that if you're expecting everybody to read through all this and watch the video and then figure out which button they want to click and then read the form and then highlight the, that thing, and there's a lot of steps there. You gotta make it very clear what you want them to do on the page.
Rich, what he's trying to say is less is more.
Yeah.
That would be the lesser version of what I just said. Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is definitely a work in progress. And so, I tend to have an idea, I run with it, and then I want to see it all, the visual, the optics of it. And then I start kind of subtracting. I was actually listening to a podcast today, and they had a great quote. He said, I actually wrote it down. He said, when things aren't adding up, start subtracting. So,
so choose one merch, forget everything else, a mug or a t-shirt, one or the other, and one color, and that's what you're offering. And it's, I'll buy that and pay extra, and the extra is the donation, or I'll just make a straight donation. And I'll either do it directly to you, or I'll do it through the crowdfunding.
Yeah, because I'm going to cut out this Google form. I can put that elsewhere if I want to on the site. That's going to be part of the actual Channel for Good website.